Hi everybody, Mary here from A Recreated Life, and today I'm doing another cooking video, and I am making carob gluten-free vegan brownies, and they are fantastic. Okay, so you guys know that earlier this year when I did my planner, I told you that I was trying to make my diet better and eat according to my food allergies, and so these brownies fit right into that. You heard my microwave ding. I am melting some coconut oil to use in the recipe. So anyway, so I've got all my ingredients laid out here. It calls for almond milk, but I am using oat milk. I would use any milk alternative. I've used almond, I've used oat, I've used coconut. I would not hesitate to use any soy, anything like that. So a cup of milk, I'm gonna so a cup of any milk alternative. I wouldn't hesitate to use any of them. It does have almond flavoring and vanilla flavoring in it, so almond would probably be the best, but no, I use any. It says so what I'm doing here is quite a list of ingredients. This is for the frosting, this is for the brownies. I've also got my oven preheating to 350 degrees. So almond milk, 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. And like I said, I've used this ground flaxseed thing for, I call it a flaxseed egg. I've used that for years. And it works pretty good, especially in baked goods. So it calls out, my oven's preheated, so it calls for 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. Here's 1. 2. Now a half a cup of coconut oil melted. That's what I was doing in my microwave, so I'm going to put this in the dish, the mixer. Hope you can see this, guys. I've made these several times. I got the recipe online. I don't think I have it marked down, but I got this recipe on. I have to do some alterations to it, so I didn't note where I got it from, but anyway, somebody I got online, a vegan person, she posted this recipe, and I changed it up so much that I didn't even write it down, but anyway, that's where I got my inspiration for this. Okay, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now I am going to tell you, this is vanilla right from, where does it come from? Comes from a friend of mine got this for me when she went on vacation. Where was it she went? Where was it? They went on a cruise, and I can't remember where it was. But anyway, she got this, and it's really strong. It's like a double strength, so it calls for 2 teaspoons. I'm going to put 1. Just because it's so strong. Very good though. Oh my gosh, is it good. So vanilla, and it also calls for almond flavoring, which is kind of different. So I just use almond extract. It's unusual that it calls for both, but oh, it's so good, you guys. I actually taste more almond than anything. But super, super good. Ooh. And so it says to mix the first 5 ingredients. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's the first 5. I'm going to just put my mixer on low. Oh, I've got my pan all sprayed. Here's my pan. That's all ready. I've sprayed it with ham, cooking spray, or whatever I have. Combine the first 5 ingredients and let sit for 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to set my timer. And that should be just about enough time to, I'm sure I'm letting it sit to let the flaxseed egg gel and do its thing. So I've got the timer going, and then it says to mix the dry ingredients, and then you stir it into the wet ingredients. So for dry ingredients, it calls for 1.5 cups of oat flour. Well, that's almond. So oat flour. I'm just gonna 1.5 cups. Got another bag. I like to buy the Bob's Red Mill, gluten-free. Excellent, you guys, excellent. I buy a lot of the Bob's Red Mill products. We have a store here in Maine. It's a locally owned store, but they've got several stores all over the state called Rennie's. And they actually do a lot. They are not sponsoring this video, but they do a lot with Bob's Red Mill. They have a lot. That's where I get most of my Bob's Red Mill stuff. Okay. Bear with me, guys, while I make a mess. Little bit I'm trying to squeeze in there. I don't think it's gonna fit, but I'll do that later. Okay. Alright, so that's the oat flour. I have a bit much in there, I think. A bit too much. Okay. I'm gonna go with it. Alright, so that's the oat flour, and now 1/2 cup of almond flour. Another excellent ingredient. Really, really good. Oh, that's a third. Ah. Then, let's see, calls for a cup of coconut sugar. I always put less sugar in, so I'm going to just use regular sugar because that's what I have, but most of the time I use Truvia. And I'll probably do 1/2 cup because I don't like it that sweet. Like I said, I adjust recipes. Really make them my own, geared to my own liking. That's why I like to cook so much at home, because everything I make it exactly as I want it. Gives me a chance to make things exactly as I like. Okay, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's quite a bit of baking powder. And a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Oh, there's my timer. Just in time. Now it's funny, when I originally did this recipe, I left out, of all things, the carob powder. This is carob powder. Now, the original lady that wrote this recipe used chocolate, but I can't eat chocolate because it gives me migraines, and so I eat carob, and it doesn't bother me. So it calls for 1/3 of a cup of carob. As you can see, I've got an overflowing. Maybe I'll dip that in with my spoon. I buy my carob powder at my local natural food store. Nope. There's some chunks in there. It acts just exactly like chocolate. You'd really never know the difference. It does melt a little differently, however. So if you have to melt it for any reason, it acts a little bit different, but I don't let it bother me. I just still use it anyway, because it's all I have. If I don't have this, I don't have anything. I can't eat chocolate, and this is my really only alternative. And I don't miss it that badly, but sometimes I just I feel like I really want something chocolate. Today was one of those days. I'm doing a video, and you might maybe see my crock pot in the background there. Doing a video today because it's so very, very cold, bitter cold here in Maine, and I'm doing a video on my crock pot meal. So this is going to be my dessert for my big meal tonight. Okay, 1/3 of a cup of carob powder, and that made just enough so that I could put the cover on this. Let's see. So anyway, this is just how I store it, and I do like to keep my chocolate. I have some carob chips in my refrigerator as well. Same thing. I just put them in little canning jars and keep it in the fridge. So this is for the brownies themselves. They are a frosted brownie, so there's going to be a frosting. While they're cooking, I'll make up the frosting, but for right now, I'm just going to mix up all the dry ingredients, and then I'll add them to the wet and put it in the dish and bake it. You guys, you cannot imagine how good these are. If you're ever in need of something chocolate and you can't have chocolate, this is a really great alternative. You guys should try it sometime if you haven't already. One thing I have had problems with in this recipe is making sure that they're cooked enough. Never quite know. Okay, so I'm going to add these now, spoon at a time, to my wet ingredients. Now, can you guys see? I'll bring this over a little so you guys can see. All right, so here goes. I can see that flax egg in there has taken form, and it's kind of eggy-like. I just kind of add it a little at a time. Handy-dandy KitchenAid mixer. I use it all the time, you guys. If you don't have one, you should really think about getting one. I have a lot of attachments that go with it, which I love. I use this thing every week when I do meal preps or cooking. Definitely worth it. I was so excited when I tried this recipe, and it was so good. I thought, oh my gosh, I've got a fantastic alternative for a desserty thing. I don't eat dessert that much anymore. I used to crave it when I was younger, but not anymore. But every now and then, like today, it's so bitter and cold. Bright and sunshiny, but bitter cold. And I just love to have meals that are comforting and warming when it's cold like this. Try to time it just right so I don't get my spoon caught up in the beater head there. It's happened before. incorporating nicely. I just have it on the stir setting. I haven't even turned it up, but that's fine. You know, if you're adding dry ingredients, a lot of times, you know, you don't want them to fly anywhere. So keeping it on low is probably the best bet. There. Get it all incorporated, and then we're good to bake. Smells so good, you guys. Oh. Let me just make sure. I'm going to go over my list. Make sure that I've got everything. So almond milk, I did the oat milk, flaxseed, melted coconut oil, vanilla, almond, oat flour, almond flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt, and the carob powder. So anyway, I started to tell you, I wrote this recipe and forgot the carob powder. So when I went through, see that you notice that I always pick my recipe up and check just before I get ready to put it in the oven because of that reason. So I wrote the recipe out and then I checked it and realized, oh, I didn't put the carob powder in, so I wrote it on the side there. And this also calls for a frosting, so I will put this in its baking dish and get the frosting going. Okay. Look at that. Oh, ooey and gooey and delicious. And it has a lot, I think it has a lot. 2 teaspoons of vanilla and a teaspoon of almond extract is a lot of flavoring, so they're very flavorful. And then the frosting has flavoring in it too, so very flavorful and good. Something you'd never expect from a vegan brownie. Delicious. Delish, guys. Okay. Alright, set my mixer aside. My baking dish. This is just a Pyrex glass baking dish. I have several of those that I use for casseroles and so on and so forth. So really, other than the ingredients, you kind of treat this just exactly, like you would make up a regular brownie that's not even vegan. You mix it up the same, you cook it the same. It's, without even batting an eye. These are just the same as you'd have regularly if you weren't vegan. But these recipes give me encouragement because you feel so restricted when you have food allergies. It just restricts you so very much, and you just miss some things sometimes. And so this, really comforting and wonderfully delicious, sweet, brownie recipe. Just, it's so nice. Okay. All right, so my instructions say to bake it 25 minutes. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and I'm going to turn the camera off, clean up a little bit, and then I'll get back on and show you the frosting while the brownies cook. Okay guys, my brownies are out of the oven. They're cooling for 5 minutes. Now my recipe says to let them cool for 5 minutes and then frost them. So I'm going to make the frosting. Now this frosting, I'm going to start it going while I'm talking. This frosting calls for almond butter. Now I don't have any almond butter. I would not hesitate to use peanut butter or that sun butter, any kind of one of those butters. I don't have it. I'm actually using butter. I've tried it in this recipe before and I love it. But the one I'm using is this Country Crock plant-based butter. This is Country Crock is a new one. I've never tried that one before, but my grocery store recently has started adding a lot of allergy-free ingredient items, and this was one of them. Now I've tried and used for years, what is that one? Earth Balance. It was so-so. It's kind of greasy when you use it in cooking, and the taste of it was just nothing. This one tastes like butter. It's so good. So, and there's different kinds of them. This one said it was good for cooking and baking, so I wanted to try it. It's awesome. Okay, so I have to butter, a quarter cup of maple syrup. This is my son, the farmer. This is his maple syrup. He gives me his maple syrup as well. And it calls for a quarter cup. So I'm going to add that in. I do use maple syrup as a sweetener in a lot of different things I have. And I just love it. My dream is to have my own place that my own, own my own place that has maple trees on it, so I can do my own maple syrup. Okay, now quarter cup of maple syrup and 2 tablespoons of this carob powder, same one I showed you earlier that I used in the brownies. Okay. Half a teaspoon of the vanilla, and I'm going to put the half in, I guess. And a half a teaspoon of almond. So you see, guys, the almond flavoring is mimicked. The same flavors are mimicked. Whoops. Ooh, a lot in there. Mimicked throughout, so very flavorful. I had these one time and my granddaughter came over and she thought there was strawberries in it. Thought that was cute. Okay, I did take the butter out and soften it a little bit because, peanut butter and almond butter, any of those nut butters, they're kind of, they're soft. So this butter was, I'd just taken it out of the fridge so it wasn't soft, so I left it out a little bit, and it doesn't take long for that vegan butter to soften up. So that's it, all of the ingredients, guys. Next I can frost my brownies. Looks pretty good. Okay, let's see. Smells really good, guys. Really, really good. Still some little pieces of butter, but that's okay. That'll melt right into the brownies. So you let the brownies, whoop, there's my 5-minute timer. So they've been out of the oven for 5 minutes. So you frost them while they're warm, which is great because any little bits of butter will just melt right into the brownies. Alright, I'm going to set that aside and turn you more this way. Alright. And it just makes a, smaller batch of brownies, smaller batch of frosting, so it's perfect. For one person, my goodness, this is great. Yeah, oh my gosh, these look so good. And the smell, you guys, you can smell the almond. See, the almond flavoring is kind of mimicked throughout the whole thing. It's got almond milk in it, almond butter, almond extract, that kind of thing. So there's plenty of frosting, that's for sure. But it's so awesome and good, you guys. Oh, you've got to try it. Oh my gosh, I would wish that you guys could try this because it's just so good. And see, it's warm, so it's all melty on there. Oh my gosh, so good. I'm going to try to push some to the middle because it all wants to go to the edges because it's melting. So I'm going to, later on, when my meatloaf is done and I eat dinner, I will get on and when I cut into these babies, I'll show you what it looks like. Oh, so good, guys. So give some different those vegan things. Give them a try. Even if I didn't have to eat allergy-free cooking, I would still give these a try. They're so good. So there's my meatloaf cooking in the crock pot. There's my brownies for dessert. So I will hop back on later and show you the final outcome. Okay guys, it's 2:30 in the afternoon and I'm ready for an afternoon snack. So I'm gonna dip into the brownies. I couldn't wait until tonight. So here we go. See how well they came out. They still feel a little bit warm, which is wonderful. Can't wait to dip in. All right, let's see. I should do it like this. How am I gonna get this out of there? There we go. Perfect. They look like they're cooked. That is a problem I've had with these before. They don't cook all the way through, so that's been kind of a little bit of an issue. All right, so here's my brownie. Here's my little glass of oat milk, and I'm going in for the taste, you guys. Right away, I can taste the almond. Delicious. Chocolatey. And they're still a little bit warm. The frosting is creamy. They're very moist. Yummy, guys. Okay, guys. Delish. Here is another successful recipe that I absolutely love, and go online and try to go to Pinterest and search for vegan brownies, and you'll probably come across this recipe. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today for me to make my delicious dessert. I really appreciate you guys tuning in today, and please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.